In this training, we're going to learn how to approve and deny time and labor, approve and deny absence requests, enter and modify your direct reports timesheets, check leave balances, check if time and absences have been submitted for your direct reports, how to request delegates, and of course, how to submit your own absence requests. So we have a lot of information to cover, and I believe an hour to do it in. So we'll get through this. Feel free to send your questions through the chat. I believe Katie was going to be checking the chat as well. So thank you, Katie. Okay. When you are in ctcLink, after you've gone in to register on that first day, what you're going to do is go right to the HCM self-service on the left side. And then once in self-service, it'll come up automatically showing employee self-service. You're going to want to use that drop down and hit manager self-service. Okay. Once in manager self-service, you'll be able to see if you have approvals that need to be done. This 0 will change to a number depending on how many approvals you have received. So you'll click on that, click on the approvals tile. Okay, let's see. Okay, so the approvals tile will tell you if you have time to approve and or absences. So that's all encompassing. Once you're in here, you're going to click on payable time to see who have, anybody who has submitted their time will be listed here under payable time. You can either select the filter button if you know exactly who you want to look for, or the employees who have submitted their time will be listed here. What you can do is click on this right little chevron to the right of the name, and it'll expand on information for that individual. So this is what you'll see. It'll expand to show each day that they have reported their time worked. And in this system, it'll be coded as regular, whereas previously it was W for work. So you'll see regular. You'll want to make sure that each day, of course, is approved for the hours that they say they have reported. You can either select to approve each day individually if you would like by clicking on the little box under select, or if everything looks great and you just want to approve all the days, you can click on the little box that's above the word select and it will highlight all days. So these are the days. Now, let's say maybe you have one day that doesn't look right that you don't want to approve. And instead of having to go and select every single little box, one thing you can do is select the box above it, which will highlight all of them, but then click on the one you don't want to approve. That'll deselect it. Just make it easier. You can also make a comment. And keep in mind, any lines that are not currently approved, you'll want to make sure to notify the employee that they need to resubmit their time for those days. Okay.
And Tish, will that need to be done via email? It doesn't send a separate message from the system directly? We
believe it will send us an email, but because timing is so important too in this new system, it's critical. It'd be great if a reminder could be sent directly to them.
Okay, that makes sense.
Okay, thank you. Reporting time codes. So most of our employees are going to be using the regular code. Like I said, this is in lieu of what we used to use as work hours. So this is what you'll see for most of your days. Holiday will be calculated by the system automatically. Any row using that holiday pay, like I said, will be taken care of, so you could approve it. Overtime. Overtime in this new system does not need to be identified separately by the employee. The system will be able to acknowledge if more than 40 hours have been reported. and we'll then identify those hours separately as a separate row. So when you as the manager receive those hours to approve, you should see two line items, one for regular and one for overtime. So this is a nice change, you know, but something to keep in mind. They will still report straight overtime, which would only be if they work less than 40 hours. On the regular schedule. So someone who's half-time maybe, or 80%, anything over those regular hours would be recorded as straight time, just meaning they get paid at their regular rate, but it's over their regular schedule.
Tish, can I ask a question?
Of course.
You might have said this already and I might have missed it. Does that mean exempt employees are also reporting regular time?
No. Only exempt employees still do as you did before. You will only be reporting absence requests.
Okay, thank you so much. So we're really talking right now about classified or anybody that has normally reported regular time.
Yes, you're right. And I do apologize. I should have mentioned that. This is because you do have exempt employees who are your staff as well. So you're right. Only exempt and hourly, classified and hourly employees and student workers will be submitting time that will be requiring approval.
Super, thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Tish, I have one more question.
Sure.
Related to overtime in particular, because this very first timesheet that will be approved will include potentially overtime for a number of employees working that Sunday of go live. I just want to verify which week is that Sunday attached to? Is it the week that had the holiday or is it the week that comes after? Does that make sense as a question?
It does make sense. I'll tell you what I think it should do. I think it should look at it just as it did in TLR, where it's the week of, so the week of the 28th, well, because it's Sunday through Saturday. Because it'll know that the employee is a regular 40-hour per week employee, and it should be catching that as overtime. I will let you know, we'll reach out for sure if we find out otherwise, but that's how it should be as far as I know. Does anybody, Mina or Katie, do you think otherwise? No?
Okay, thank you. Wonderful news.
Yeah. Okay. The other codes that you'll see there for that will be available for employees is holiday worked, callback pay, standby. These are very rarely used and only in limited conditions and circumstances that do acquire pre-approval by the manager. So we can definitely work with you one-on-one on how those will be handled as we learn that process as well. Okay, some important notes to remember. When time submitted, it's going to be done overnight. So an employee will submit their hours today, do their overnight process. You will then receive those hours to approve the next day. Now, on the days where it's a very tight window that we only have until noon to get things processed or that you have to have things approved, payroll will need to be running. It's a process that we run on a regular basis to allow those reports, timesheets to be incorporated much quicker than overnight. But on a regular basis where time, is not a factor, it will be an overnight process. So just a reminder, timesheets, the pay periods and deadlines, pay dates, those basically remain the same. Deadlines were always due the 16th after the 15th due date and the 1st of the month after the end of the month. But in this new system, we do not have the luxury, I guess we should say, of waiting a little bit longer than we need to, or somebody didn't turn in their time, I'll just wait till Monday. The unfortunate part with missing these deadlines is that those hours will not be allowed to be submitted until the following pay period, because we will now have what's called the lockout date, and no timesheets will be accessible to even open to try to submit. So it's going to be very important that these dates are monitored for employees so that they can be paid correctly. We will encourage weekly submission of time, especially for hourly and student employees. The system does allow for daily, but we're not going to be encouraging daily time submission, because what that means is every time somebody submits their timesheets, you will get an email, which means you'll get one every single day. Now, you don't have to approve them every single day. You can choose as a manager to approve it once at the end of the pay period. And in hopes of limiting the emails, that's why we are encouraging at least weekly or hourly. And as of now, regular classified and employees can submit the end of the pay period. So those are options. So in TLR, employees were able to submit their time and their leave at in the same place. Here in PeopleSoft, time and labor is entered in under one tile. And then now for absence, it's done as an absence request. So employees will have to submit an absence request for vacation or sick or personal to you. And then once you approve it, it's then kicked directly to payroll. So it's not something that the employee will have to submit to you to get approved and then report their leave. It's all in one shot.
Great fish. So it's all in one shot, but does it have to be submitted in advance? Or it should be submitted at the time? Because we all know that life happens and you wind up not doing something that you planned to do 6 months ago. Does that make sense as a question?
Yeah. Oh, yes, yes. We definitely encourage it to be during that pay period for that very reason. People do plan ahead and submit time, and then things change and then it's harder to go back. So we do encourage it to be for that period. But of course, if you are going to be, you're going to be in Hawaii, then I would submit my request because it's not going to change. Now things change and we should be able to get them kicked back. But what I'm also trying to say is when I say absence request, for those of you who remember personnel leave request, you have to submit a request first and then submit your time. This is not that. It's just one shot deal. Your request is you submitting the time, basically.
Gotcha. So supervisors could choose to handle things the way they have been doing it for many years with TLR and say, you're required to request it of me, in advance by email or however their current process is with staff. And then this, even though it's called the request, treat it like we have been treating just TLR in the time frame, report your absence. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. Yes,
Okay.
It does. And definitely you are all welcome to keep your own process so long as the time is submitted when it's due. Yes. Okay. So to do that, again, you're going to be in the manager self-service tile. It'll be under approvals, but now you're going to go to the absence request on the left, and it'll show you who has submitted your absence. To look at the specific information, you can go to the little chevron on the right there to open it up so you get more detail. When you're in the absence approval module, it'll also show leave balances. So we're going to get to that, but there's going to be a few different places where you can see employee leave balances, which will be real important. So when you open that particular employee's absence request, you'll be able to see the information they've submitted, type of employee, what day, how many hours, and if they had any comments that they wanted to share. And if all looks good, just go ahead and hit approve. If not, then hit deny. This pushback is no longer an option. It might not even be there anymore when you log in, but it won't let you do a pushback. So it's only approve or deny. And then you'll be able to make comments before you submit.
Tish, this is Sheila.
Yeah.
Quick question. Are you required to attach a comment to an approved request?
No.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. So that's pretty much the process for those two pieces. But now what happens if you have an employee who has not submitted time or you know something has to be turned in, or on vacation, you as a supervisor can now go in and enter or modify time for your direct reports. So to do that, again, in Manager Self-Service, you'll go now to Team Tile. Here you'll be able to enter time. You can either filter to select the employee specifically you need, or if you hit Get Employees, it'll give you a list of your direct reports, and then you can just click on who it is you need from that list. And when you are in, this is what the timesheet looks like. It's set up for the week. And depending on either if you need to make an adjustment because they submitted something and then left, but it was wrong, you can go here to make that change, or they're on vacation and you need time submitted, you can do that here as well. Now, because you're the supervisor and you're submitting the time, once you do this and hit submit, it will come directly to payroll. It will not think it needs to go back to you for approval, because you are basically approving it since you're the one that's submitting it for them. Okay. Checking balances for your staff. This is going to be very important. Hopefully the staff will be aware of their balances and won't submit any time over that. However, we do know sometimes that happens. In the previous system, when it did, and it wasn't noticed, the system would then do a docking from another leave that was available. Maybe someone requested too much sick leave, and then it would say there isn't enough sick leave. We've taken it now from your vacation, so they wouldn't lose pay. PeopleSoft will not do it that way. If there is not enough leave for what was requested, the balance will be docked as leave without pay. A separate email will not go to the employee. They will see that when they're paid. So it's very important that, A, we stress that they check their balances, and B, that we as managers ensure that we're approving a balance that is available. So how do we check those balances? As managers, you can go to My Team. And when you, under My Team, you will have your direct reports that will show up. You can highlight who it is you'd like to check a balance on. Click on the tab for leave balances, and then it will show you what the leave balances are: vacation, sick, and personal. We can also check to see if time and absences have been submitted for our staff. As we know, sometimes our staff don't always turn them in, but this is a way that you can track that for them or for yourselves to make sure it has. Under Manager Self-Service, Team Time. And then you can view on the left side here, View Requests. Once you click on the View Request section, you will have a list of all of your employees, and you can take a look to see if they've submitted. Maybe they went on vacation, or you knew they were out sick. Again, by clicking on the chevron here to the right, it'll expand the detail, and you can see if they've submitted what you expected. And this would be the same for time. If you've got hourlies, interpreters, models, work studies, should be able to click to see if your employee has submitted time that you knew they worked. And this is just a window of when you open that, it's going to show you, what was submitted and if it was approved or denied. Now we're going to go on to delegates. So in TLR, you were able to notify payroll if you wanted an alternate supervisor to be listed in the event that you were unavailable, vacation, out sick, at a conference, whatever the case may be. In PeopleSoft, The option is a delegate, and identifying delegates is up to the manager. So this will no longer be handled in payroll, but it will be up to you to identify who you would like as your delegate. You'll be able to identify the time period you need them for and the specific approvals that you want them to have. So for example, you'll go to Delegations. To create a delegate, you will need the dates, who you wish to request, the transactions you would like to give them approval for. So that could be, I only want them to approve leave, or I want them to approve overtime and leave, or only overtime. This system will allow you to really break it down, but it also gives you the option to select all. So if you just want them to do everything like you had previously done in TLR, that is also available here. So once you select that information, you're going to review it and then submit it. Then your delegate will get that and will need to act on it. Will need to accept it if they want to accept it or deny it. Maybe they're going to be gone too. The other thing you can select here is the My Delegates, and that's where you'll be able to see all of your active delegation request statuses. So if you click here, you'll be able to see if somebody accepted your delegation or denied it. And then finally, My Delegated Authorities. So here's where somebody, if somebody has delegated you as somebody who they wish to help with approvals, you will see the request in your My Delegated Authorities. You'll be able to look at the dates, the transactions, and if you want to accept their request, then you hit accept, and then you'll select yes in the approval section. And then you will have a message that'll display showing that that has been accepted. It'll also show the role, so the start and end time. So keep in mind, while you do have the option to put a start and an end time for the specific delegation, maybe it's only for a week or two, you also have the option to leave that end time open-ended, and it'll just leave them as the approval ongoing, just as it did in TLR. So this gives you a little bit more flexibility and control as to the time period and the types of approvals that you have. Okay. So now you
Sorry,
would like,
Tish,
yes, yes.
there is a question.
Okay.
Can we delegate groups of people to multiple delegates?
Groups of people to multi. So meaning.
So my assumption is, let's say I supervise the safety and security team. Would I be able to delegate that Nina be able to approve everyone under that team?
Oh, honestly, I don't know off the
Actually,
top of my
Katie,
head.
Oh, sorry.
one of the things
Thanks,
what I was looking at is the difference between, say, a maintenance team and custodial team, and then we also have across 3 different shifts. And so the idea was, can we take groups of people and have a separate delegate for each group, maybe by
shift.
Mhm. You know, from what I have seen so far, I'm not seeing where you have an option to identify a specific group. It's going by the individual manager's name and only allowing that shift. So I'm going to have to look into that because I'm not 100% sure if that's not doable, and then I'll get back. Okay. Good question, thank you. Okay, so we as employees and managers also want like some absence request information. So we'll be doing the same as our employees do if you're out. However, in this case, you're going to go to the self-service. now instead of manager self-service, because as self-service, then it's going to look as you individually. You go to time. And then request absence. And then in the request absence display, you'll see some different absence names. So here's where you'll be able to do personal leave, vacation, sick, very similar to what you saw in TLR. And that's what you'll put down there. And then it'll ask for, and that was the reason, excuse me, the absence name. And then the reason and the start end date. Here, this is a little different. So here under duration, it does full day hour durations. Unless if you need to do a partial day, then there's a different section here to allow for partial days. So doing the full day, you'll put the reason in the drop-down menu, start and end date. You can type in a comment if you want, you know, into Hawaii, whatever the case may be. But if it's partial day, it's a little trickier because in partial day, you will need to mark all days are half day or there's partial days. Because it's very specific. It doesn't, this system doesn't let you do, I'm out full days, Monday, Tuesday, a half a day, Wednesday, Thursday, a full day, Friday. It's a little bit more concise. So unfortunately, if it's not consecutive in whether it being full day or part-time, you might need to break it up so that it will show that way. It's unfortunate, but so far this is what we have found. So in the partial days drop-down menu, the only options for that are none. So they're not, none of them are partial day. You're gone the whole time. End day only is, or the start day only is, or the start and end day, or all days. So those are pretty consistent and that makes sense. But as I mentioned, if it's kind of like up and down, then that will have to be looked at in its own sections as all days or partial days. When you're done entering your time, you would click the submit button and then it'll just go off for approval to your supervisor. You can always request, review your request too. So you've submitted your time, but you're wondering, did I do that time or has it been approved? I don't recall. So again, go back to the self-service section and then time tile. And under time tile, then you'll just go over to view requests. And that'll list the requests that you have submitted and whether their statuses, what their statuses are, whether approved or denied, whatever the case may be.